Good evening, everyone. It is an honor to be here with you tonight. I'm happy to be here in District 3. Grateful for the entire Botanical Gardens team and staff and volunteers for allowing us to have this town hall meeting here in District 3 tonight. I also want to thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules, your lives, your jobs, your families to be with us tonight. If you're here, you're concerned about your district, your community, your neighborhood, your street, your block. So thank you for being here. I'll tell you the format and then we'll get into it. I come up and say a few words. Ms. Valerie Abbott will come up and say a few words. She'll kick it back to me. We'll go through an actual detailed presentation that you all see here on the screen, and then we'll open it up for the most important part of our town hall meeting, which it is designed to take your questions and we answer them. If we can't get to all of them, we'll tell you about that process as well, but we'll be here for a minimum of an hour and a half, minimum. With that said, excuse me, I want to take a point of personal privilege to acknowledge your city councilor, Valerie Abbott. I shared at the council meeting this morning. I've known your representative for 21 years, right out of college. I crashed in on the city council floor, third floor of City Hall. I got a chance to know her, I got a chance to know Martha, and I got a chance to work with her over the last years professionally and to get to know her personally. And she's had a lot of ups and she's had some downs recently. The most recent down, unfortunately, is that she lost her mother yesterday of 101 years on this earth. So in front of your constituents, Ms. Abbott, I just want to acknowledge that we're thinking about you, we're praying for you, and we honor your mother tonight, and we appreciate everything you do for us, and I'm giving you the mic.
So what does he do to me? He makes me start crying, and then he says, here's the mic. But it's okay. It's part of life. So I want to say thank you to everyone for being here. And everybody who's standing up, there's plenty of seats out here in this sea of seats. There's not much in the way of parking out there. But I'm glad to see everyone. I know we have a lot of issues. I could name them, but I'm going to let you do that. Be sure and pick up a list of the street paving projects for 2024 so that you can know what they are. There's lots of good literature back there, but I'm just happy to see the great turnout, and I know you all have questions, so get those little pieces of paper and write the mayor a note. So, Mr. Mayor.
I'll give it back. More about tonight's design. Again, we'll go through a presentation that you'll see here on this screen. Show of hands, who does not have one of these, who needs one? This is how we make sure we can get to as many questions as possible. So if you need an additional one or you don't have one, please raise your hand. This is a good time now. We'll be sure to pass them to you because we want to make sure we get to the most important part of tonight's event. Thank you so much. With that said, everyone, I got a host of department heads and deputy department heads down here. I don't know the answer to everything, but there are a slew of people seated in front who are smarter than me who have all the answers. So we will get started. We will get started by just jumping into this presentation. I started with a topic that's important to everyone, and that is related to our city's infrastructure. Valerie Abbott, as long as I've known her, these 21 years, two topics she's going to always talk to me about is street paving and sidewalks. So I start with street paving and just tell you what we did in 2023 before I tell you what we're going to do in 2020, what we're doing in 2024. Last year we were able to, thanks to the city council's vote and approval in the budget, last year we were able to do about $12.5 million in citywide street paving. For District 3, that allowed for about 43 miles worth of street paving. I'm sorry, citywide. I apologize. Because that would be a lot, Ms. Abbott. Yeah. Don't beat me up. It's early. Don't beat me up. Citywide has about 43 miles worth of street paving, everyone. You break that down for District 3, that's about 15 street segments. Now, there is more information in detail at birminghamal.gov/transportation. Again, that's birminghamal.gov/transportation. Whatever device you have to actually look at the detail on your phone or your tablet, whatever device you may want to see the details of the streets that were paved in your district last year in District 3. If you go to the next slide, now I want to tell you about street paving in 2024. City Council bumped that money up about $400 additional thousand dollars to 12.9 million, almost 13. But the 182 segments equal about 36 miles of street paving we'll be able to do this year in 2024, and that'll equal about 25 segments spread out again in District 3. That information, those streets in detail, I think you actually may have a printout. Do they have a printout? They have a printout, Mr. Fowler? As you can see in your hand, if you don't have one of these, does anybody need the list? Show of hands if you don't have one. These two young ladies, I got about 3 people over here need this sheet if you all can pass it to them. But this sheet represents the 2024 annual street resurfacing in District 3. It includes Highland Park, Forest Park, Glen Iris, Redmond, and 5 Points South. So pretty much almost all of your neighborhoods. Almost all. Again, if you could raise your hand if you need the sheets. I got 2 down here on the 3rd row, everyone. And I have a cluster back here who need those sheets. So you have it at the tip of your hand. You also have it at birminghamal.gov/transportation to view the streets that are being paved in District 3 this fiscal year. If you could go to the next slide. So I told you 2 things Ms. Abbott likes to talk about. That's actually at least 4. It includes street paving, it includes sidewalks. It also includes capital projects as well as stormwater. I'll add a 5th thing in a minute. But the second thing is capital projects. So I want to talk about one that's really important. Is Ms. Bell here? We're going to deviate. I'm going to say a few things, and then I want you to fill in at a high level Caldwell Park drainage improvements, because I know this is something that's important to people in District 3. And so the good news, everybody, related to Caldwell Park and the drainage issues that have been there for years. The design work is complete. That took a lot of months, if not over a year. And now the city's in a position to advertise the bid this fall. Ms. Bell, if you could just tell these good folk what's next.
Good afternoon, Denise Bell, serve as the Director of Capital Projects with the city. So basically, we're in the process of making final notes on the actual construction plans, and we will package them up and get them ready for bid this fall. As of now, our target date is September, the end of August, beginning of September, depending on how quickly we can actually package it up. So I know it's taken a long time, but it actually got more complicated than we thought it was originally. So it is coming. That is our promise. It is coming. And I thank you for your patience.
Thank you so much. You all have been very patient. A weekend or the number of days we've had of rain over the past few does not excite any of us, based on not just Caldwell Park, but many parts of our city, related to our system being overwhelmed with the amount of rain that was poured into our city over the last few days. Another capital project, everyone, is the Montclair Road at Ramsey Park drainage. That also includes sidewalk repairs. Right now, we're at a position where we're going to convert the open channel to a culvert and add a sidewalk. The process it's currently in is to advertise and bid this upcoming fall, so a few months away. Shout out to Handover Circle. I know Ms. Abbott and I came, has it been 2 years now when we came over there? A year and a half? 2, 3? Something like that. We're now, design starts this fall on the actual sidewalk and pedestrian improvements, which I know is important to people. We then go over to 65 South, Green, or 65 North, whichever way you want to say, the Green Springs Highway Streetscape Phase 2. This is done in conjunction with LDOT because a lot of this space we need their help on. But LDOT as bidding begins next spring of 2025. The project will provide streetscape as well as pedestrian improvements from 8th Ave all the way to the actual city limits. And then we have the Highland Park Pro Shop HVAC and roof replacement. So this has been a long-term issue, a long-term complaint. There are no excuses. We apologize it's taking so long, but we want to give you a little detail of this. The design is actually complete, and now we're working with the adjuster on the HVAC claim. And the other good news is the roof is actually complete on this project as well. These are not the only projects in District 3, but these are some of the ones high level, as well as some of the ones that we're most sensitive to, as well as some of the ones that are part of the squeaky wheel and receive some of the highest complaints. If you could.
Hanover is additional. We completed the first Hanover project. We actually had additional funds, so we're actually going to do additional work in Hanover.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bell. So then another thing is Public Works. Public Works has a lot of different things they do. And it extends well beyond your weekly trash pickup or your monthly bulk pickup. It includes more than just cutting city right-of-way in District 3, as well as city properties in District 3, as well as the parks in District 3. There's been a litter crew for a few years, so we just want to tell you in 2023, litter in District 3 and what the litter crew picked up. The litter crew picked up 2,627 bags of litter just in 1 year in District 3. If you want to, I guess a way to view that, that's the equivalent of 34 garbage trucks loads of litter in your district in 1 year. Believe it or not, that's on the lower end compared to some districts. Nothing to brag about. Litter's bad. We shouldn't litter. Unfortunately, people litter. We pick it up, they throw it back down. We keep picking it up. That's literally just what we did in 1 year. In addition to that, we repaired about 890 potholes in District 3 since January of last year. And then we talk about our new citywide garbage cart system. Show of hands, is anybody still having any problems with their new uniform cart system? That's a miracle. Ms. Abbott, that'll be the only time tonight everybody won't raise their hand. It'll be the only time tonight. Everybody, I forgot to mention Darrell O'Quinn. Dr. Darrell O'Quinn is present, the president of the Birmingham City Council. I apologize, I did not acknowledge you or recognize you. But everyone, Dr. O'Quinn is here as well. If you could go to the next slide. So then this is another topic. Ms. Abbott is very, very, very aggressive and passionate about, that is code enforcement. You all weren't there, but she almost broke her hand at a city council meeting last year because she demanded more code enforcement employees, which we complied with and got more code enforcement employees. Your district does not have the same issues as others have related to dilapidated structures. You actually only have literally one structure on the condemnation list. We've inspected about 33 houses, and 4 of those cases have been closed. Again, you're on the lighter end as it relates to vacant properties, but we've been able to cut 11 vacant lots by contractors. And then about 20 homes that are occupied we found in violation since last year of January 2023. Please continue to call, email us, engage 311 if you see or know a house in violation of any of our codes. If you could go to the next slide. So this slide is, well, I'm going to talk about it in several ways. I'm going to talk about it briefly now, just to tell you the following. Crime is more than gun violence. Crime is more than homicides. Crime is also talked about differently than it was 3, 4, 5 years ago, pre-COVID, in how it's perceived as well as the reality. But I do want to talk about the reality of crime. As of July 26, with the exception of homicides and a little bit above 1% of burglary, all other crimes are down. This time last year, at the end of July, we were at 72 homicides. We are at 11 more this year. I am going to talk about crime and public safety later in our presentation in detail. But for now, if you could go to the next slide. While talking about public safety, this became a citywide issue. So this issue wasn't isolated to downtown or District 3, but citywide, public city right-of-way, private property, church parking lots, small business parking lots. People took to what's called exhibition driving, donuts, etc. You insert the synonym what it's called. It escalated in 2023 as well as the beginning of first quarter of 2024. We the BPD, I don't want to take credit. BPD issued what's called Operation Night Rider, and from this proactive policing, we were able to get really aggressive and start going after those committing this offense. In addition to that, we got help from state legislators that allowed an exception for camera usage for exhibition driving. The combination of that, literally since April, so one quarter, all of April, May, and mid-April, but to June, has allowed us, just on exhibition driving, to yield about 143 felony charges, 57 vehicles seized. 10 of those are stolen. So if you go back to the slide a minute ago, please. If you look at auto theft, there's a trend here. Our auto theft was actually up 25% the first quarter of the year. But because of this targeted effort of focus on exhibition driving, it's given us a residual of some additional things, including retrieving stolen cars as well as stolen property and stolen guns and illegal guns. If you can go back to the next slide, which includes 86 firearms seized, 10 Glock switches, which are federally illegal and carry a sentence up to 10 years in federal prison. So this is what you get when you have intentional, proactive policing. I want to acknowledge all of BPD for this concerted effort. You could go to the next slide. So, show of hands, who has a camera on the exterior of their home? Who has a camera on the exterior of their home? We have a program. We have a program called Connect Birmingham. I like to tell people Connect Birmingham is a new form, if you would, via technology of Neighborhood Watch. It's not Big Brother. We're not actively looking at what's going on your porch or in your front yard. However, it allows you to opt in. It allows you to volunteer in, if you so choose, for Neighborhood Watch, block captain, if you would, on your block, your street, in your neighborhood. That this will feed into our real-time crime center and puts us in the best position, a more efficient way and a faster way to investigate a crime if it happens in your neighborhood or on your street or in your block. We have to ask for your permission. You give us permission. We're able to use what happened based on the exterior of that camera, if it picked up anything, as part of our investigation, which speeds up the process to actually make an arrest and take someone off the street. If you go back 2 slides, burglary. Burglary was higher than this as well, and I know this is an issue in District 3. And the reason I bring this to your attention because it's the only property crime that's up, but it's barely up. It's about 1.4% up. What we've seen is people commit burglary in District 3 or any part of the city. We arrest them. They go to the county jail, and I swear to y'all, they sign themselves out. And they come back out, and they commit burglary again. So, Daryl and I actually called the head judge of criminal court about this revolving door, and the judge's response is, our hands are tied. So we need our legislators to figure out a way to get more creative as it relates to those who are on the revolving door continuing to commit burglary crimes, and their ability to just easily sign out. There's no bond dollar attached. There are no minimum requirements attached. It's just a free-for-all. We believe through state legislation, if we can change how that works, then it will make it less likely for people to continue to burglarize certain portions of the city, which we've seen an increase. So in District 3, we got one guy, we know he committed about 11 burglaries, and every time we caught him, he was released. So it's one of the things we're focusing on and trying to fix, but we don't have local control to do that. Turns out the judges don't either, because the bond schedule was set by the legislators. So we need legislative help down in Montgomery to change that law. If you go back some more slides. And so back here, I'm sorry, one more. Here. The more people sign up for this, everybody, the more we have the additional eyes and ears we need in the city. Scan the QR code, if you will. If you don't want to scan the QR code, there's actually sheets of paper back here for you to get more information. Don't take my word for it. Check out the video that's attached to this. Read more about it. Ask a Birmingham police officer about it. But we want to encourage our citizens citywide to be a part of this program. It's brand new, but we believe it will help us in our ability to take criminals off the street. If you could go to the next slide. So, DNAT stands for Drug Nuisance Abatement Team. These numbers need to be updated because it's more properties, correct? And a little bit more money collected. But here's the deal. In my left hand, you have our ability to go after criminals as well as criminal activity on private or public property and through the criminal form. DNAT goes through civil action. And so if we have a problem property in any district, a landlord, a tenant, if you will, an owner of property, where there's a continuing nuisance, whether it's drugs or any other form of nuisance, we can elevate that to an actual district court civil judge or circuit judge and be in a position where the judge makes the owner, the renter, the landlord come into compliance with the law, and if they don't, they're held accountable and or evicted and or ordered to shut down. Mountainside. I don't have to tell anybody what happened this past Friday. I even have a family in here whose family member was a victim at the same place a year ago. We all know about some of the issues in Mountainside. I believe majority of those citizens are law-abiding citizens. Also believe there is a drug element there that lends itself to some of this other criminal activity that includes discharging of firearms and, at a minimum, 2 homicides that have occurred over the last 14, 15 months. That being the case, Birmingham Police Department is compiling the number of police calls and issues from this address, and then they're submitting it to the legal department for the Drug Nuisance Abatement Team to actually investigate, and if it warrants enough, that information will be submitted to a civil judge to hold that actual landlord, the owner of that property, accountable for what happens on that property, because we need them to help BPD as well as keep the law-abiding citizens safe who are residents and or visitors to this place. You could go to the next slide. So, again, land bank in your district is at a minimum, but you have about 11 properties in your district that are unsold that are part of our land bank in District 3. We have 12 that have been sold, 3 are under development, and 2 have been completed. And if you want to know more about the land bank, just please put it in the question form, and Caroline Douglas is here to answer any of your questions in detail about our land bank. Next slide. As you can see, on 49th Street in your district, so I believe this is in the Avondale area, this was a land bank property, and you can see it on the left before, and then you can see, and it's owner occupied or rental occupied now after the development. So our land bank is an amazing tool within our toolbox as it relates to neighborhood revitalization citywide, which includes this property in your district. You could go to the next slide. We also have a down payment assistance plan for residents in your district or citywide who want to be homeowners. It includes up to $10,000, 5-year forgivable loan with a 0% interest. And since May, we've had 7 closings citywide for this program. So again, if you know someone citywide or in your district who wants to be a homeowner, who wants to transition from an apartment multifamily to a home in District 3, but maybe need a little help, guidance, support, please scan this QR code and share it with them. You could go to the next slide. So, I mentioned earlier in the city council meeting, everyone, that the non-city councilors, without fail, at a minimum once a Saturday, every Saturday actually, there's some type of cleanup project somewhere in the city. Councilors partner with neighborhood officers, community members, churches, nonprofits, etc. They go on a tandem and they do a sweep and a cleanup, and it's aggressive, and it's 3-4 hours on a Saturday morning. They give up their time to do it, and then by the next Saturday it looks crazy again. For the life of me, this uphill battle of trying to change culture and getting people, whether they are a renter or a homeowner, to take more pride in their neighborhoods where they live, this is something we talk about daily. With that in mind, we're doing a citywide cleanup. It is for you, again, in your neighborhood, your block, and if your block is clean, your street. If your street is clean, then in your neighborhood. And if your neighborhood clean, go out into the community. But we want a mass of volunteers where they live in their neighborhood, whether they see trash on the streets or anything of that nature, to help us clean it up. This will be a citywide event this Saturday. Anyway, we want you to post your before and after. But if you're in this room, you have pride. If you're in this room, you care. If you're in this room, you're committed to your city and your neighborhood. Please participate in this Saturday. You could go to the next slide. So, ACE is a program. It stands for the Academy of Civic Engagement. This is a very, very important program related to getting everyday citizens and residents to understand how their local municipal government works. Often we struggle with trying to balance expectations of people who may not understand their government. This allows you to literally look under the hood of how your government operates in all departments, issues from A through Z. Since its inception, we've had about 1,200 citizens, residents participate in this program over the last few years from 98 of the 99 neighborhoods. You got to let me know that one neighborhood. Somebody has to let me know. If it's in District 3, I'm coming for you. The next Academy class is September 5th, which is a month and some change away. We want you to sign up at birminghamal.gov/ACE. Again, that's birminghamal.gov/ACE. But this is a very, very important program, a way for you to understand your local government a little bit more. With that in mind, this is a good time to pause and acknowledge if you are a neighborhood resident. If you are a neighborhood president, neighborhood vice president, or neighborhood secretary in District 3 or any other district, please take the time to stand and be acknowledged. Neighborhood officers. We want to express our gratitude for what you do. And I want to thank you personally for being crazy just like me. And good luck. I'm just playing. Next slide. So, we are coming to the end of the actual formal presentation. Ms. Abbott, we have good timing. At a minimum, the next hour, we get to just spend time with questions and answers. This is how you stay connected to us in various ways. Social media channels, city's website, YouTube. You can even text 888-777, and you can get us right on your cell phone for pertinent and important information that you need. With that said, I am giving this mic, actually I'm going to keep this mic. She has an additional mic. This is a portion of our time remaining where we take your questions and we answer them, and we go as long as we can. With that said, Ms. Marie.
Yes, sir. Good evening. So we've had multiple inquiries about the uptick of panhandling in Green Springs.
Yes, so Green Springs, 5 Points South. I told you earlier I would give you more detail about crime, and I will. And I'll give you more detail about police and our shortage and why that exists. And then I want to talk about something that we're all sensitive to citywide, which is panhandling, our homeless neighbors, our unhoused neighbors. And in doing that, I want to point to a young lady and acknowledge her. Elena Melton, everyone, leads a coordinated effort in our office related to any and all things dealing with our unhoused residents throughout our city. She works with the nonprofits and the agencies who help assist the city when there are issues related to our unhoused residents. I personally go in various places where our unhoused residents are. A lot of that exists in Central City Business District. A lot of that exists 5 Points South. And then we find some of our unhoused residents who like to be off the grid. A lot of that exists under the trains off of the Green Springs exit of 65. And we find time to time they move. We shut down one camp, they move to another area. We shut down this camp, they move to another area. We shut down another camp, they come back to the first one we cleared out. And it just over and over. So sometimes we literally get out of the car and just talk to our unhoused residents, and here's what we find. We find that a significant amount of them, particularly on that 65 corridor Green Springs exit, are literally not from Birmingham. We also find when we talk to them, for that group, I told myself I was going to be candid and open with you tonight. They don't want our resources. They don't want our help. They don't want our assistance. They don't want to be a part of government. They don't want Social Security. They don't want taxes. They don't want any of that. They want to be off the grid. And so it becomes kind of hard when you say, hey, how can I help you? And the help is refused. And Elena and others, BPD, they can attest to that, particularly in that corridor, because the question was specified around the Green Springs area. In addition to that, in the fall and in the winter, when the leaves fall, drop to the ground, you see the mess they left in some of the areas where they've been camping out for a while. The ones that are public right away, y'all, I promise you we can go in. Mr. Yates sends a team in and it takes them a few days to clean it up because it's that bad. But we can't send this team in on private property. And so then we go on this, where's Waldo? And it's literally a hunt to find a landowner who has a gazillion, is hiding behind a gazillion LLCs, or is an absentee landowner, or who lives in another state. So every now and then, we try to partner with the community to go on private property and just clean it, but we can't unilaterally do it by ourselves. The point I'm making is this: whether it is our Central Business District, the Green Springs area, George Ward Park area, 5 Points South area, we will continue to engage our unhoused residents. We literally try carrot first all the time because that's what I believe in. We don't want to be heavy-handed, right? But we also want to strike the balance of peace, public safety, public health, as well as if you live in a city, whether you're housed or unhoused, you have to follow the law. So Ms. Melton and her team, along with our partners in the community, go out to these spaces and continue to engage. We keep the logs when we go. We tell you what we do. All that information is available. But certain folk, y'all, refuse to accept our help. And so the best thing we can do in the Green Springs area is to try to continue to clean it. If we see a camp, we try to bust it up. You should know they'll move. Then we bust that camp up. They'll move again. I explained that earlier, but that's what happens over and over. So it becomes a matter of, well, where do you want to go back to? So believe it or not, we've been talking to, and this is a long answer, but this is a very sensitive, important topic, so forgive me. In the 5 Points South area, they've expanded CAP. And so that gives us an additional tool of human capital to engage residents and assist. You want to come on up and explain? Got anything you want to share? Oh yeah, of course I'm looking at you. As it,
I saw you looking at as we were sitting here. Hey everybody, my name is Michael Sims. I work with Rev Birmingham. I'm our City Center District Manager, so we oversee the Clean and Safe program in the City Center, which has just recently expanded to 5 Points and the Switch, which is our Innovation Depot area. As he mentioned, CAP is a kind of an extra layer of supplemental service on top of what the city already does. And we just started back in July 1st, so it's not going to affect everybody in here in residence, specifically like Highland Park, some of those areas. But if you do visit the 5 Points area, You're probably familiar, you'll see them. It's the same people who are in the electric blue who are downtown. It's the men and women who walk around, and what they can do is kind of move along panhandlers. We're also into the cleaning area, so we'll clean public right of way. After Department of Public Works does all their heavy lift, we can go back behind them and help them out a little bit more. And then working with Ms. Melton as well, just on different strategic ways we can help out with this. It's a bigger issue than Birmingham. This is a national issue, so we're trying to deal with it as best as we possibly can. So we're just trying to be here as an extra level of service. There are some cards back there. I think I have those here. If you have any issues in the 5 Points area, downtown, or in the switch, you're welcome to call the number. It's 251-0111, and it'll go to our dispatch team.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name is Josh Yates, and I serve as the Director of the Department of Public Works. In addition, I echo a lot of the comments that were just said about how we kind of handle the homeless or the encampments that we encounter in the Green Springs area. We've added some trash cans in the area as well along the ramps. We found out that adding those trash cans actually added a layer where some people will actually use them. So we have added those instead of just having the litter thrown on the ground. They are being utilized. Obviously, with the amount of bags we picked up, not all the time, but it is helping. In addition, the camps, we try to be very sensitive around that topic as well. We give ample notice to say, hey, we're coming in to do a cleanup. One of the unfortunate sides of it is a lot of stuff will be gathered and pulled out of the area, and as soon as we go through and clean up, it gets put back in. So that is a challenge that we face. But we do go in there, we clean them out, we try and clean it as best as possible, and for a good little while it may stay clean, but as the mayor indicated, a lot of the encampments move. So we clean one area and they go to the next. So it's certainly an area where we're trying to improve on, but we do a lot of cleaning up in those encampments, several, every week.
Thank you so much. There's one more important note about Green Springs, and Ms. Melton will actually share with you now, and then I'll come behind you and finish up.
Thank you, Mayor. We've seen this question a couple of times, so we want to make sure we talk about the Green Springs area in particular. A lot of the panhandling is happening on state right-of-way where we don't have any enforcement ability in that area. So we're working with our city attorney's office and with the police department. I know we met with many of your neighborhood leaders about this topic, but just for all to hear, our hands are really kind of tied when it's on state right-of-way.
The Jarvis Leonard, everyone, leads the East Division for ALDOT, the Alabama Department of Transportation. I've lost count of the number of emails I've sent him, the number of calls I made to him, the number of texts I've sent on all our behalf, because when it comes to state property, the state is actually responsible for clearing their right-of-way, enforcing their laws. They tend to be lax, and I'll tell you my theory, if it's not about paving, they don't care. I said it, don't beat me up. It's just a theory. But we need the state's help as it relates to the panhandling, the sleeping, the trash, the gathering on their state property. We continue to ask for that help as well. So that was a lot of people talking on that question. That was a long answer, but we wanted to provide you with all the detail. And I imagine for some of y'all it's still unsatisfactory, but we wanted to shoot it to you straight.
Yes, sir. Before we ask the next question, I want to remind you, if you still have questions and your cards are complete, please raise your hand. We'll get someone to come over and get those for you. And also the hashtag for the cleanup effort on Saturday is BHAM Cleanup, hashtag BHAM Cleanup. All right, so for our next question, at the key circle, the paint is needed over the yield on the street. So let me repeat that. At the key circle, paint is needed over the yield on the street.
Hi, I'm James Fowler. I serve as the director of the city's Department of Transportation. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. So we will review that and address it as necessary.
That literally may be the shortest answer tonight, everyone. Teach me, sir. Please teach me. Teach me your ways.
All right.
Ms. Marie.
So who or what office does one call regarding hazardous trees in the row next to sidewalks and parking.
Good evening, everybody, again. So in regard to hazardous trees, in the event that there is a tree that you feel is dangerous, it may be infected, it may be dying, please call first and foremost 311. Put in a case through 311. Additionally, you can use the app. It's very convenient. You can take pictures on the app as well to submit it. But when that's submitted in, our urban forester will actually go out to review the trees. If they are in the public right of way, they will be reviewed to see if they need to be pruned or if they need to be cut. And so he will make that call, and then we'll move forward from there. But the first step is 311, and if you have any trouble with that, feel free to give our office a call as well. You can always reach us at 254-6345 as well.
254-6345. Thank you, Mr. Yates. Ms. Marie?
Yes, sir. Many storm inlets are clogged, which prevents drainage, causing flooding. Are there plans to address these as well as repairing the outdated drain inlets?
I'm still blushing from nobody raising their hand about the CART program from earlier, so excuse me. But in regard to the city's drains across the city, yes, there are a lot of drains across the city. I think there's 40,000 total. And so our crews work day and night. They're on call to clean out inlets. We have jet trucks, we have vac trucks. It does take a while to get down around to everyone. Again, if you'll put in your request through 311, take a picture of it, submit it in through the app, or call it in and report it, we'll get on that as fast as possible. I monitor our 311's reports. When it's electronically submitted into the database, I can see how many have come in, and we can see which ones we can group together to handle when they are needed to be addressed. So inlets, please report those through 311s if you see they are clogged. A lot of times inlets, it may be an overwhelming system. It may be an overwhelming rain. We've had a lot of very hard downpours that have created, just an overabundance of water in our system. This infrastructure was put in many, many decades ago, and it seems like our storms seem to be getting a little harder and harder. So just to be mindful of that, if there are issues that you can see on the surface, please let us know. If water is standing, let us know. We'll be glad to come out and see what we can do to address it.
Everyone, at this point, Mr. Yates should just stay up here, right? And let him keep the microphone. Marie?
Yes, sir. So there have been multiple inquiries regarding short-term rentals and Airbnbs.
It's kind of like, who wants to take it? You want to take it, Ms. Abbott, you want to take it, y'all want to take it together? Because you get to tell everybody about the recent hearings. So we'll let this young lady go first, and then you come behind her and give your residents an update on what's happened literally in the last 2 weeks.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tracy Hayes, and I serve as Deputy Director for Planning, Engineering, and Permits. And the short-term rental came about because we were looking for a way of regulating the complaints that we had received, and we didn't have anything in place. So that's where it came about, and we started the community engagement process with our citizens as well as our short-term rental owners, just to get feedback from them to see how we can implement that. And that's how we started that. We've had a series of community engagement meetings. We also had a ZAC meeting. We met with the CAB. Recently, at July 16th, we had a ZAC meeting, and we committed at that time to take in the information that was submitted to us from the community and our short-term rental. So we will be going back to CAB, and then we'll be going back to ZAC and then the City Council. Oh, I'm sorry. ZAC is the Zoning Advisory Committee, and that's a subcommittee of the Planning Commission. And then the CAB is the Community Advisory Board. That's it. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you so much. And I think it's important, because this is another topic Ms. Abbott is passionate about.
Oh. I see a lot of the people that I saw at the hearing before the ZAC. The other two hearings they had were mostly attended by people who were the proprietors of the short-term rentals, but I think the ZAC got an earful from the people who are enduring the short-term rental problem. So there was a lot of good feedback. I think we had over 60 speakers, people who are actually having these things next door to them or across the street or lined up in a row. There's one man who wrote to me and said he had 12 on his street. And he said he didn't have neighbors anymore. He had transient people with luggage and lots of cars. So it is an issue. There are obviously probably more than two sides to it, but most of the residents of Birmingham that we have heard from don't want them in the residential zone districts. They want them in commercial districts, kind of like hotels. It remains to be seen how that will pan out. But that was we've received hundreds of emails from people who could not attend physical meetings for one reason or another. And, I would say maybe 8 or 10 to 1, they don't want them in the residential zone districts. But the proprietors do. Well, yeah, but some proprietors actually live in their short-term rental and rent out part of their house, or maybe they rent their house out when they go on trips or something. So, there's a variety. But we want to hear from you. If we don't hear from our constituents, we don't know what to do, and we just do what we think is right, and that may not be what you want. So, everybody's got an email address, so, continue to send us, because we read them, and some of them are so eloquent. They tell the story better than I ever could. So, we've got a lot of really smart people in Birmingham, and we have a lot of people that are really disturbed by these places. So, continue to contact us. We will still have another public hearing before the city council, but we have to get an ordinance that's right, because the one that allows short-term rentals in every single zone district we have in Birmingham, that one's not going to fly. But I believe that there will be some kind of compromise. So just continue to let us know how you feel about them, and then we will have another public hearing where you can speak your piece before the council. And I can't tell you when it'll be, because we're not ready yet. But just keep your ear to the ground. We always send information to the neighborhood officers so they can share it with the people in the neighborhood. And of course, each neighborhood is only as good as its mailing list. So if you're not on their mailing list, get on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Abbott. So, listen, again, this is one of those issues where I would say not the proprietors, but the people who take advantage of Airbnbs usually are good, and then it's a handful of folk who just don't know what to do or how to do it, and they mess it up for everybody. It tends to be around holidays. July 4th was really bad. I talked to one of your residents multiple times. Her name's Elizabeth. I think she goes by Liz. Not sure if she's here tonight. Liz, hey Liz. What's up, Liz? Liz showed me some pretty disturbing and shared some pretty disturbing information. So I heard the hand claps. I know this is not an issue just in District 3, but we've had homicide at Airbnb in District 9. We've had gunshots at Airbnbs in District 3. In District 5, we've had somehow the parent gets it and then turns it over to teenagers. So then teenagers are having parties at Airbnbs unsupervised. And so we Miss Abbott used the word compromise. We got to find that compromise, and at the same time, we got to be stricter on what we're doing to make sure those who use the proprietor or the person using it is in compliance and is keeping everyone safe, particularly because you're a visitor in the neighborhood. So we got to protect our residents. Long answer, but needed answer because I know it's something you care about, Miss Marie.
Yes, sir. Why are we limited to 2 trash cans? If we only have 1 day of pickup now, it stands to reason we will have more trash. Can we get approval to purchase up to 4 trash cans?
Well, first of all, whoever house this is, I'm going to come live with you. Because clearly they're eating good. I want to join the clan. Unfortunately not. Again, I'm going to be honest with you. We gave every citizen a 90-gallon bin, and then we allowed you to purchase a second one for $120. So we found that actually works for literally 99.999% of people except the person who just answered that question. So I'm not being funny. Don't beat me up. Please come see me after, and let's discuss why you need that and see what else we can come up with.
Yes, sir. Simply, can we hire more police?
Yes, that is our desire. That is our want. And truthfully, that is our need. If you bear with me, I want to spend a lot of time answering this question because it is a very sensitive topic that we're keenly aware of. If you're asking me to prioritize or what my priorities are as your mayor, it is very simple. It is public safety, it is to keep you safe, and it is to hire police. All of those are on equal footing. But I want to arm you with factual information so you know what's happening in the city of Birmingham, which is not unique, everyone. We have the largest police force in the state of Alabama. So that makes us similar to other mid and large size cities in the other 49 states who have the exact same problem. In 2020, 2 things happened. 2. One was the coronavirus that was pretty much acknowledged in March of 2020. And then 2 months later, George Floyd was killed. I want to talk about the first one first. It turns out when the coronavirus happened, there were several there were several public service group of employees who couldn't work from home. And I want to give you the top 3. Police officers, teachers, and nurses. And if you talk to any superintendent of a large school system, if you talk to any CEO of a hospital, they will tell you the exact same thing that any police chief or mayor would related to police officers. There's a shortage of nurses because of the same thing that happened in 2020, and there's a shortage of actual teachers because of the same thing that happened in 2020. These 3 public service groups couldn't work from home like the majority of us could. And what happened was, because of the unknown, because of the uncertain, because of the burden, because of the overwhelming issues that we all face in 2020, you know what happened? Those 3 groups of public service employees took a retirement at a rate that no one had ever seen, that no CEO of any hospital had ever seen, that no superintendent of any school system, and definitely no police chief or mayor had ever seen. And 4 years later, we're still reeling from that height of retirement that didn't match the number of officers that came in every year. That is the offset here. 2 months later, George Floyd was killed. And as I've stated, and I will keep stating this, George Floyd's murder wasn't contained to or isolated to the city limits of Minneapolis, Minnesota. What happened with his murder sent the ripple out into the larger community, to our country. and a conversation for the next and youngest generation of people who we would want to be police officers nationwide. Policing took a extreme dip in trust, and that allowed less people who had a desire to want to be police officers. There's a plainer way I can say it to you when you combine both of those things of the coronavirus and George Floyd's death. The current class that we are hiring that's in our police academy is the highest class since the coronavirus. That is the 4-year trend the city of Birmingham, city of Atlanta, Houston, I can go on and on, that we've been on. This is a national trend. So Birmingham is not unique in our shortage of officers. But it's pushed up against a national narrative and a public narrative. It's not in isolation. And it's not just about money. We've increased police salaries 15% over the last 2+ years. We've just implemented a take-home car process that we're phasing in for officers who actually live within our city limits. We have all these other incentives and packages as it relates to onboarding and hiring bonuses and lateral transfers and all these things. All the things are in place, including the positions to be filled. But you have a generation of young people, the next youngest generation, Generation Z, and a little bit of Generation Y. They don't desire to be police, so we're working through that. I am pointing to Deputy Chief Malden, who leads the administrative bureau of BPD. He could stand and be acknowledged so these folks can see what I'm talking about. But hiring is on this man's shoulder, but it's not his alone. Turns out it's all of ours. You got friends that are getting ready to leave the military and be honorably discharged. You got friends in other cities that actually want to make our city community better. Talk to them. Tell them to come be a part of our force. There is no force in this city that has better training. There's no force in this city that has better packages as it relates to retirement and other things. But even with this younger generation, you should know they don't want to be on the job for 20 years. That's not necessarily appealing to them. So we're doing every single thing we can to think outside of the box and be creative and innovative on how to hire people who want to be police officers, including through council support, hiring part-time officers as well. But this is a national issue that we are very keenly aware of and doing every single thing we can to hire more officers, because it puts a strain on the existing force related to overtime and the number of hours they work, and they have families too and want to go home to their family as well. So we want to hire more officers, but you deserve to know why that's such a struggle and an issue. The good news, again, we see this 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24, and we believe this November class that we'll have next should be one of the largest classes we've had, even bigger than the current one and hopefully larger than the classes we had in 2020. So tell everybody about it and come sign up for us. Anybody here want to be a police officer? That's a no? Okay.
Yes, sir. The water pipes need replacing on Argyle, Avon Circle, etc. Are they going to repave before they replace the pipes? Water problem is chronic on Avon.
So who should I take? Yeah. So we're not going to come up, I'm not going to make up an answer. I think we need to investigate that. Is Argyle and what? So we have the question down here, and it's been given to capital projects to actually investigate. So I'm not sure whose question this is, but I'm just looking in your eyes and letting you know we will investigate this. Don't want to make up an answer on the spot.
Yes, sir. So this says regarding BWW, Birmingham Waterworks. When they put holes into the paved roads, can someone reputable fill in those holes?
Chief Sparks, I want you to meet my new squad. All of us going to assemble and beat up Waterworks. Now, I share that. Whoever question that was, I'm with you. We agree. And I'm going to pass the mic.
That's a excellent question. A couple of points of clarification about the waterworks and other utilities as well. So their initial repairs, so they might come out in the middle of the night sometimes and make their repairs. So their initial repair is considered a temporary patch, and that is often pretty rough. They're using just cold patch asphalt, so we don't love that repair. But they're required then 30 days later to come back and then do a permanent patch. So when that's done really well and correctly, then it turns out well. I've seen some that turn out really well. Sometimes they don't turn out very well. And so you can report those to 311. You've probably done that in the past. Those do go to a combination of our department, sometimes other departments, depending on the specific issues, and we do follow up with them. The honest truth is that there are so many repairs that are being made because of just the age of the water system. It can be very challenging for us to follow up on all of those items and have accountability there. And I think probably, just speaking for them, it's probably challenging for them to make sure that they're doing a good job on them just because of the volume, because we are in an old city and a lot of those water lines are old. So I don't want to make excuses for those if they haven't been repaired well. Please do report them, and please continue to report them and follow up. We do follow up with them, and so oftentimes if there's a lingering issue, it may take a while, but we can get it resolved. So I think that's probably the answer.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler. And Marie, if you have the next question.
Yes, sir. Regarding the car wash ordinance, how can residents' desires be prioritized?
Ms. Abbott, you want to answer that? I think you should. I think you should tell them about today and tell them about all the efforts you've been doing.
That's because you
And
don't
this
know
is-
the
this-
answer.
Yeah, this is a... It's probably true, everybody. It's probably because it's led by our committee. But this is another time for another opportunity for us to assemble and go beat up some people.
Yeah, okay, well, we had a public hearing today on the moratorium ordinance that we passed. We had a public hearing because we didn't have a public hearing when we passed it, and there were some people that were mad about that. So we held a public hearing today, and a lot of y'all that are here were there and spoke today about the issue. And you know, it's a tough nut to crack because the property is zoned for that type of use, but we're in the middle of a planning process to change our ordinances and to also complete our framework plans, which are part of the comprehensive plan, which is supposed to guide development in the city for the next 10 years. The last one, we kept it for 50 years, and it was kind of worn out when we finally did a new one. But so there is a court hearing on Thursday, and they're asking for a injunction, right? They're asking, yeah. So they're asking, yeah. And I'm not a lawyer, and so I have to look over here to the lawyers and make sure I'm telling you the truth. But there is a court hearing on this Thursday, and they would like to proceed with their project, and many people in the audience don't want them to. And we, the city, would really like to finish our planning process before any more development goes on in some of these key areas of the city. The project for Richard Arrington Jr. Boulevard, that it didn't make it onto your little flyers that you got, but and it wasn't up there. But Richard Arrington Jr. Boulevard is going to go on a diet, and it's going to go from 4 lanes down to 3 lanes, and the middle lane is going to be a turn lane. So there are only going to be 2 paths for traffic to go on, and hopefully that will slow people down, and it will give an opportunity for pedestrians and cyclists and people pushing baby carriages and going on those little scooters that they leave on the sidewalks. You know, other types of transportation to have space, because right now there is no space. Right-of-way is a real issue. It's already all used up, which is the reason that we're going to have to put the road on a diet, because there's no additional space. We can't put a road out in the air overlooking Birmingham. So we really want to finish our planning process and implement some of the projects that are in queue. And I think that there was something was said erroneously about that project. It's not going to start in August. It's an ALDOT project, and we're going to have to let them bid it, and they won't bid it until spring of '25, which is, yeah, I mean, it feels like a really long time. So we just, we're in the middle of all these plans that are ongoing, and then you have this car wash that wants to pop up over there. And so I know y'all all know that is the issue, and we're working through it, and we're doing our best, but no one knows how it's going to turn out. God maybe, but the rest of us don't know yet. So we're just all doing the best we can. And if you have any suggestions of what we can do to, make it all work out, then like maybe if you could just collect $1 million amongst yourselves, and then we'll just buy the property, and then Elizabeth will get her park. But until then, we probably are going to have to wait until the courts and the lawyers and the planners and everybody does their thing. Think that's fair?
Yes, ma'am. I'll tell you this, everybody. What I'm about to say has nothing to do with any car wash in District 3. I want to repeat that. What I'm about to say, because I don't want to be in nobody's courtroom. What I'm about to say has nothing to do with any car wash in District 3. I'm actually speaking citywide issues on two topics that I've seen a trend. It's kind of scary, and the council and I, along with the zoning folk, along with PEP, we got to find a way to jump and be ahead of the curve in what I'm about to say. Probably about 2-3 years ago, we saw a trend citywide of the storage places. Y'all remember that? Self-storage. And we went a little deeper on the conversation, and we looked under the hood, and it was a national trend. It wasn't just Birmingham. It was Nashville, Atlanta, other southern cities, Chattanooga, Austin, and it was other portions of the country, not just in the southeast. And you look deeper under the hood, and on that topic, what you found was it was where investors were going, and so that's why they kept popping up everywhere. Then we found ourselves in a similar situation citywide. Again, I'm not referring to anything in District 3 or any particular project. But citywide, these car washes were popping up. I heard a number at the city council meeting this morning. What was that number? How many requests, permits, or have come through just for car washes citywide? It was some astounding number. I don't remember. Does anybody remember? It was given this morning.
In the last 7 months, I think it was 6, and then there were 3 or 4 before that.
Yeah. So with that, which is a lot, by the way, because there are already a gazillion car washes, but that's a lot in a short window. The point is that same thing is happening nationwide as well. It's the new investor trend. Not sure what the next one is in the next 6 months, the next year, the next 24 months, but
previous to that, it was payday loans.
Yes, it was.
It's always something. We've
Yes.
done moratoriums for all kinds of things that were spreading like wildfire.
we just need to find a way to jump the curve. Ms. Marie.
And just a reminder again, if you are done with your questions, please raise your hand so that we can get those cards grabbed from you. Next question, can we get stop signs for the intersections of 21st Avenue South and 22nd Street and 21st Avenue South and 23rd Street? This will help slow down speeders and allow residents on the street a gap to pull out of their driveway onto 21st Avenue South.
Thank you for that question, and we'll get the card and we'll investigate those locations. Just to add a note about stop signs, we have installed quite quite a few stop signs around the city. However, even though it appears that we've installed quite a few, we say no to a lot of stop signs as well, and there's a lot of good reasons for that. So we investigate each of those locations and go through a pretty rigorous decision-making process as to why or why not. So we'll look at those those locations and make a decision and install them if needed.
Yes, sir. What can the city do about large groups of people gathering on private property after dark?
They're not doing anything illegal, nothing. I think that's rivaling the shortest answer. I don't mean to be flippant, but if a large group of people, which could be one family, I'm not even sure what we define a large group as anymore these days. But if they're on private property and they're not doing anything illegal, we're not going to do anything. Oh, oh, trespass. Oh, the large group of people are on property that doesn't belong to them. Thank you for helping me clarify that question. You want to help me out, sir? Come on. Come on up. Couldn't see.
Thank you. Yes, do you happen to have the owner of that private property? You do know who it is?
Just see us after if you
Okay.
have a name, so we'll go through a process.
But that would be key to being able to get them trespassed. Otherwise, we cannot go onto other people's private property without the permission of the owner. So that would be some of our holdup if we didn't know who it was. But yeah, get with me afterwards and we'll see if we can get it addressed.
Yeah, so just to actually give a detail, it doesn't matter if it's a large group of y'all or one person. On the south side, Elena and I had I forgot the address, but it was about a month ago. You met a business owner out there. We were getting a complaint. A person on this property just causing havoc in their actions towards others. The property was private, so by law we were not allowed to go on without permission. We actually found this business owner. I gave him a call. He literally stopped what he was doing to meet. Did you go out there? To meet Elena Melton, BPD, as well as the owner, and as well as the person out there. So a couple things happened. The carrot, Miss Elena Melton was able to say, "Hey, is there anything we can do to assist you, help you with whatever resources you need?" The stick, BPD was able to trespass that person because the owner gave permission. That created a process. If that person came back, henceforth, BPD could escalate it, including up to arrest if the person refused to go away off that property. That's how the process works. It does not work without the owner's permission because by law, we're not allowed to just voluntarily go on private property and remove a person. So there's a process. So if you know the owner, that's always helpful, and it helps make our process faster on trespassing people who don't belong on that property.
Yes, sir. We are actually down to one of our last questions, but I wanted to show you for your visibility. This stack here is strictly regarding Airbnb and short-term rentals. So that's for your visibility. And so,
Answer your Airbnb questions, everybody. We didn't? All right. Just be patient with us. Get your last questions. We'll come back to some of the Airbnb questions.
yes, sir. On behalf of a house of worship in District 3, how can we be a good neighbor as a church in District 3?
Gosh, so you already are. So let me see. Let me see how I can answer this question. Birmingham, Alabama is always in the top 10 most altruistic cities in the nation. We are a very kind, giving city. There are a gazillion churches on the south side and alone in District 3, clusters of churches. And what happens? In our public spaces, on church properties, that question is I don't mean to, again, be flippant or say it's a silly question, but you're already doing the work. You help our homeless, our unhoused residents. You help in cleanups, and you help in so many different ways of the various ministries you have. So that work is already being done. But let me tell you what comes with being in the top 10 most giving cities in the nation. People are going to flock to congregate, hang out, come to areas where people give. It's human nature. I'm not saying starve out anybody, but I've seen the rub. I've seen the conflict with business owners in our faith-based community in District 3. I've seen the rub with residents and unhoused community members. I've seen the rub between owners of property and homeowners in our faith-based community based on this push-pull of wanting to help our unhoused residents, and then some of the negative ripple it creates. Overall, it's more positive than negative because we don't want anyone starving, and we want to help people. At the exact same time, some people take advantage of that and they're abusive. So I totally veered from the question, but I think it's totally related to some of the issues we face in District 3. I think CAP, again, can be a part of assisting with some of those issues, but we got to find a balance of what that help yields on the positive and see if we can take away the negative. Whether it's creating rodents and rats in our public spaces and parks because of food and areas not being cleaned up after we've given food. I'm not saying that's all churches. That's actually a lot of the nonprofits. That's not all the churches in isolation. The point I'm making, and Ms. Abbott or Dr. Darrell O'Quinn or Mr. Yates or Ms. Melton can correct me if I'm wrong. We have to strike a balance on this topic as it relates to how do we help our unhoused and at the same time not create things that create either public health issues or public safety issues. Did I get that right? Did I miss anything?
The only thing that I think maybe is missed is that our public parks are for the public, and when someone takes them over and lives in them and does the kind of activities that they do, they ruin our park system for everyone. And so trying to be even-handed is very hard, because once somebody moves into the pavilion and uses it as a dwelling, nobody else can use it for months afterwards unless you have a really good pressure washer.
We find ourselves going back and forth with some of these issues in George Ward Park and Brother Bryan Park that we've given and committed a lot of resources to, human capital, equipment, etc. We'll continue to address. We go in and clean it up. Sometimes 60, 90 days later, it's back or it's worse. I forgot, at one point, we literally dedicated a team to Brother Bryan Park. How many days? Twice a day. That's kind of how frequent we were going. The point... Avondale Park. Yes, ma'am. We need to add Avondale Park. My answer, everyone, was not directly towards the question. And so I want to acknowledge, thank, and appreciate our faith-based community for what they do already. I want to acknowledge small business owners in District 3 for what you're doing. I want to acknowledge the nonprofits and the agencies for what you're doing as well. I just think it works better in collaboration and communication between the nonprofits, the faith-based, the small business owners, and the city government on how we tackle this issue to balance helping in this hand and the public health and public safety in this hand in these same spaces all of us have to and want to use.
Sir, let me just say that the time is now 7:21, and I want to just remind people what we mentioned earlier, particularly the church that offered to help. We have our community cleanup initiative this Saturday. If you want to sign up or get more information, we have Shonda Temple. You can see her over there, and she is happy to assist, and we have flyers here in the back. Turning it back over to you, sir.
No, that's the only questions left are about Airbnb?
Yes, sir.
Well, come on, let's get into some of them.
All right.
Let's go. Ms. Abbott, come on up. I'm serious. Come on. Are they written? They need to be written, though, to make sure we balance the time.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm sorry, sir. There were remaining questions. What we did was Sometimes we bundle package questions because it's the same topic over and over. So we took one of the questions from Airbnb. We gave y'all some broad answers. But the remaining stack,
Yes, sir.
I presented the question, you said we haven't answered all. So let's just get into some detail.
So, how would short-term rentals be held accountable?
Ms. Abbott and I are going to actually step aside and give this one to PEP.
Good afternoon. It will be accountable with the court, the code, and the zoning ordinance, and that's how we will be able to enforce it.
What are you going to do about Airbnbs hurting residential neighborhoods? So they're really all kind of the same question.
Yeah, I think Liz, I think if we use your example, 4th of July, I think it's one of the most extreme examples. I don't mean to call you out, but Liz stayed in the block on the street that had some extreme behavior at an Airbnb that included gunshots. Liz took the time to actually collect those bullets. And then she sent us various emails and pictures. And I said, we, Ms. Abbott and myself, and et cetera, a few others, took the time to give her a call July 5th. And I think we talked twice, and she sent some additional information. I think the biggest thing for us, you see an issue like that, y'all, where it's just flat out illegal behavior at an Airbnb, please call 911. Give as much detail as possible. Now, you may not like the response time. The response time will be for two reasons that you may not like. The officer in that beat area is either on the active call or based on what type of call you call, it may not be deemed a priority, as if not a robbery in progress, or burglary in progress, or active shooting in progress. Either way, still give the information. Allow BPD to come give a report. I think the city of Birmingham is then in the position to engage the actual owner with information about what's happening at that Airbnb and put them on notice. When we get teeth in this ordinance, that even makes it better when we have that type of information to make them be in compliance. So just keep calling 911. That's the best way I can answer that question.
Yes, sir, and really, the majority of those are similar to that, and we've since gotten some new questions, but due to the time, we want to let you know that after each town hall, we always follow up with these questions, so you can be assured that we have your number, we have your contact information, and we will follow back up with you regarding your question.
Marie, what's one of the questions that's not related to Airbnb?
Okay, they're coming back. Just one second. No, Airbnb. Can anything other than demolition be done to deserted, abandoned properties?
No, Artemis. Yo, Artemis is actual he's a leader and deputy leader in the PEP department, but he's our expert on all things related to structures that are beyond repair, structures that are deemed need to be torn down, why, et cetera, et cetera. So you can wax on as much as you want on this topic.
Actually, excuse me, we get a property owner opportunity to repair the property. They will have to go through CDC community development meeting to get approval by city council to repair the property. But we do get a property owner opportunity to repair the properties. Like Councilor Abbott stated in the past, she'd rather see property repaired versus demolished. Once we demolish the property, only thing we have to do then is to clean it up.
Thank you, Artemis. So just to put a little bit more on that, listen, this is a interesting topic. We have no desire to tear down rooftops in our city. But literally 100% of the time when you see us engaging in that blight removal, we're either paying a contractor and using your tax dollars, by the way, on private property, or a demolition internal team within Public Works to go on private property for either an absentee or a slumlord that's not taking care of their property. That takes years to get there, y'all. We don't identify a property and hey, we're just gonna go tear it down. Some of these properties have been standing for years. Again, it's not necessarily the biggest issue in your district, but if you drive in some of these other districts, it's a serious issue of absentee owners have just left their properties with neglect. And once that roof gets a hole in it, or you can't even walk up the stairs, what do? So we go through a whole process of trying to search for the owner. We go through a whole process of trying to find the owners. But after a certain point, and thanks to state's help and new laws, we've condensed the time length because it used to take, what, Ms. Abbott? How many years? How many years, Artemis? 7? 10? 6? Average of 3 years to demolish, which is long. It wasn't always that way. It used to be longer. So this is something that we are very sensitive about. Marie?
Is the wall holding up the mountain on Richard Arrington Jr. Boulevard going to be repaired? Is it part of the new green project across from Vulcan?
I'm going to imagine you're referring to the street that's blocked off. Highway?
Richard Arrington Jr., where the big concrete wall is, it's got a lot of cracks in it.
Is that state or us?
Well, I don't know.
James, you know what they were talking about? Give that address. Say it. Can you say that address out again loud?
The wall holding up the mountain on Richard Arrington Jr. Boulevard. And let me flip it over. It has, I think that's something else. But this is in Glen Iris. It's across from Vulcan.
Red Mod or 5 Point South. Don't know where the line is exactly.
I think I know exactly what you're referring to, and we're going to be assessing it as a part of the Richard Arrington project. So I can't give you more specifics than that today, but we're going to investigate that, especially just based on that question.
Go ahead, Marie.
Yes, sir. When Highland Avenue is repaved, will the top of Aldot's Bridge be repaved?
That's the Elton B. Stevens Expressway, and the pavement on top of it is as gnarly as any pavement Birmingham has anywhere. And for some reason, it never gets paved. And it's over the Elton B. Stevens on Highland Avenue, right past the high-rise apartment condo.
Yep. So the part, okay, yeah, I understand exactly what you're talking about. That curve there where the pavement is absolutely awful, perhaps some of the worst pavement in the city, that is going to be repaved. That is upcoming. It's actually funded with grant funding. I think that one's through the MPO, with the Metropolitan Planning Organization. And so there's some extra steps that we have to go through to use that. So if it does not get paved this fall, it will get paved in the spring, but it is upcoming and it is funded. So yes, that will get paved.
Y'all act like I don't know District 3. Y'all talking about the 21st Ave exit and make a right and bend the curve. Thank you. I see it. It is horrible. It's F minus. It's going to get repaved. Sorry it's taking so long, everybody.
Yes, sir. We're flooding back into kind of Airbnb specific. Can the police get the name of the guest at an Airbnb and explore criminal activities in that place?
Yeah, if criminal activity is taking place on whoever's there, yes. Police, through their policies, procedure, and having people identify themselves for an investigation of any sort, the answer is yes. That is the last question?
Yes, sir.
Oh, look at that. So everybody, what we'll do now, I will bring Miss Abbott up for any closing remarks she wants to make, and then she'll pass the mic to me for some closing remarks before we all get out of here together. In addition to that, if you see the people on this front row, second row, and actually third row as well, and some of the folk you see standing around here in the back and on the walls. These are team members in various departments. That includes the police department, fire department, community development, public works, 2 city councilors, let's see, legal department, capital projects, Department of Transportation. Am I missing anybody? Yes, host of other departments. See them if you have any additional information or anything you want to discuss with us when we adjourn. Ms. Abbott.
Okay, and I have some homework for you.
Yes, ma'am.
The city has a demolition by neglect law that the city paid some high-priced lawyers to go to Montgomery and get it passed. And we've never used that ordinance or that law. And there must be something wrong with it. But I think we need to investigate the demolition by neglect, because we did it, we paid for it, and we got, the legislature, gosh, when did they ever help us? So we got them to agree to do something, and we've never used it.
Cedric, I got an assignment. Let's make sure we get Ms. Abbott an answer by the week's end.
Ooh, I'm so excited. First, I want to thank everybody who's here. I know that you have at least 1,000 other things you could be doing with your evening. And I think it's wonderful to see how many people are really interested in where they live and want to make it better. And I know that if I had to pick one issue, I think the short-term rental issue would be the one that everybody wants us to do something like right now, tonight, fix it. Because having a business in your residential neighborhood is not what you expected when you bought your home. You kind of thought you might have neighbors. And that one man who lives on the street with 12 of them, who told me, he said, Mrs. Abbott, I don't have neighbors anymore. He said, if I want to borrow a cup of sugar, I can forget it. I have to walk to somebody else's neighborhood. Now that's not right. It's just not right. You've invested probably hundreds of thousands of dollars in your home, and you want to live in a residential neighborhood, which is where you thought you bought your house. So I get that. And I appreciate you being here, and I'm listening, and I believe that all of my colleagues are listening. And believe it or not, these things are all over the city. Go to the neighborhood you think is the worst one in town, and it's got one of these, or 2 or 3. And there's probably shell casings all around them too. At least we haven't had any dead bodies. But I just want you to know that we're working on it, and we're thinking about it seriously and trying to do it right. But I appreciate you being here to voice your opinion, and I really look forward to hearing your opinion, even if you've already written to us. If you have a new thought or an idea that would help us to resolve this issue, then, let us know. But I love it via email because I can go back and read them over and over in case I forget. I'm getting older. I'm not 101 yet, but I'm getting older. I might forget something. But send us your opinions, because we are keeping tab on them and sharing them, and we want to know how you feel. So just thank you for being here. It means so much. I was, thinking, what if we have our town hall meeting and there's 3 people in the back, who can't even hear. So I'm happy to see everybody. And of course, all of the city employees who come here, the department heads and everybody. Now, nobody's been mean to them tonight, which is really nice. And really, it's really nice that nobody's really gotten angry. But sometimes people do. So I really appreciate the fact that they're willing to get up here and stand in front of everybody and answer the questions, which are not always easy to answer, especially the ones about, is my street going to be paved soon? And are you going to fix the speeding on my street? And, we just go on and on. So, thank you. And Mr. Mayor, I'm going to give you your
Ms. Abbott, thank you so much. To the residents of District 3, let me pick up where Ms. Abbott left off. I want to thank you so much for being here tonight. I'll end where I started, which is I know you all are extremely busy. You have lives, you have families, you have jobs. And even retired people can be doing other things. But I want to thank you genuinely from the bottom of my heart for being here tonight, because it shows that you're not only concerned, but want answers and want to work with your city government to make things better. So it's not all doom and gloom, right? I want to reiterate that. It's not all doom and gloom. I think there are many, many positive things that are happening in your neighborhoods, in your district, and citywide. We don't always talk about those things, and we need to do a better job of that. The other thing I want to say is, again, shout out to the Botanical Gardens team, staff, volunteers for hosting us tonight. Also, like Ms. Abbott said, I want to thank the team, the staff, department heads, deputies, leaders who run their various departments, who are experts and know these topics way better than I ever could, and are as sensitive and passionate about solving them on your behalf as much as I am. We don't have all the answers and we don't have all the resources, and in one budget year we can't fix every problem you have. But that doesn't mean we're ignoring you. And it doesn't mean we're not sensitive to the things you're sensitive to and care about. Whether it's Airbnbs, whether it's some of our unhoused neighbors' issues, whether it is panhandling or crime, and all the other things you care about in District 3, we care about as well. So thank you for your time tonight. That concludes the actual official business of this town hall meeting. Again, some team members will linger here if you want to come down and talk to them. If you had a question that you didn't want to have asked out loud, it's a good time to talk to them now. They're going to kick us out. They won't be here long. But everyone be safe going home and have a good night. Thank you.